Stem cells are a special kind of cell found in your body. To talk about them first, like with their origin, and then we'll get into like their medical use and some of the controversy surrounding them. But to start, everybody watching this video was once just a small group of stem cells. When a new egg is fertilized and it becomes a zygote, all of the early cells in development are called stem cells. They're cells that don't have any differentiation yet, meaning like they haven't become a certain type of cell in the body, like brain cells or liver cells. They can become literally any cell that you currently have. So the reason scientists are interested in them is there are some cells that don't recover from injury. So things like cardiac tissue and certain nerve tissues that once they're damaged are basically irreparably destroyed are things that we could potentially repair with stem cells. Now, adults produce stem cells on their own. For example, you have a lot of stem cells in your bone marrow that replace the different blood cells that you need. So one of the things we've talked about in class are your red blood cells. They don't have a nucleus. They don't divide on their own. They all come from the stem cells in your bone marrow, which is one reason why people end up getting bone marrow transplants if they have certain problems like leukemia. And since your bone marrow is composed of stem cells, that's something that's possible. Now, part of the controversy around stem cells is where they were gotten for a while, and to be honest, your textbook is old. Your textbook is from back in 2007, excuse me, and it still talks about getting stem cells from embryos, which is extremely outdated. At one point, that was the case, like stem cells had to be harvested from a developing embryo, but now we can get them from a new spot. You can get stem cells from umbilical cord blood. So every time a baby's born, you can harvest their stem cells and freeze them and keep them for that individual when they're older. So one thing you have to do every time a baby's born is to cut the umbilical cord, and that blood that's kept in the umbilical cord has rich stem cells in it from that individual. So it's something you can keep, and it has nothing to do with any of the ethical problems of getting stem cells from a developing embryo. So anyone who talks to you about that is dealing with outdated information. I mean, that's like 5 or 6 years old, which in scientific terms at this point is extremely outdated with the rate at which things increase. So unfortunately, that little section at the end of your textbook on page 253 is outdated when it talks about the controversy around stem cells. A lot of that's kind of gone away because you don't have to get them from developing embryos anymore. To give you an idea for some things that this could be used to treat, any kind of nerve disorder where you have like nerve damage, say, so if it's just like a spinal cord injury, could be used to treat that. It could be used to treat heart problems. Cardiac tissue is one of those cell types where the tissue does not repair itself. It no longer divides if there's damage that's done to it. So you could use stem cells to potentially treat things like that. Other things like cancers such as leukemia, there's a chance that stem cells could be used to treat those kind of disorders where individuals don't have the correct stem cells in their bone marrow. Things like type 1 diabetes, where the person is born with it. That's something that could be potentially treated. Parkinson's disease, anything like Alzheimer's or dementia, where you have a breakdown of the nerve cells in the brain. Those are all things that could potentially be treated with stem cells. And scientists are working on these things. We're still substantially far away from like human trials for a lot of the more unique treatments. But there are some general things that are already being done on people with stem cells, and it's something that most definitely within your generation, this will become a very prevalent scientific treatment. So it's something that you guys will be on the cutting edge of, and ultimately, decisions about how we're going to use this technology will come down to individuals from your generation. So it's something you should definitely be aware of. You should make sure that whenever you're talking to someone about this, or if you hear about it, that whoever's speaking about it understands the current information, that you can get stem cells, again, like I said before, from umbilical cord blood every time a baby's born in a way that doesn't harm anything. So the whole controversy around this issue is pretty much over with. Now all we need to do is figure out how to best use these things to treat people who have problems that we couldn't treat before. Things like nerve and cardiac damage that previous to the use of stem cells was pretty much irreparable damage, things that you couldn't really recover from. So again, that section at the end of your book, even though it has some good information in it, the sections on like where we're getting stem cells from is very outdated. So as always, I thank you for watching, and I hope you learned something.